Yes, I am Bob Gorman from Gwar. I'm a fabricator of costumes. I play lots of different victims, monsters, and for the last 14 years, I've been Bone Snapper the Cave Troll, which is Gwar's sidekick and executioner.
Cool. So I'm just curious, where are you right now?
I'm in the creative office at the pit, at
Awesome.
our headquarters.
How would you describe Gwar to someone's uninformed mom that has yet to hear about them?
Art collective, whose main project is a story about a group of intergalactic barbarians who formed a rock, are stuck on Earth and formed a rock band.
Amazing. When did you become involved with the group?
1988.
Wow.
A long time ago. Yeah. You know, I eased in slowly. So I've really been involved since 1990, but I started working with the band on costumes and performing in 1980.
How did you get involved in art? Like, where did it start for you? Was it comic books? What's your origin?
Yeah, comic books were a big part of it, but before even comic books, I just always wanted to draw and just be creative and weird. And I gravitated towards art school, pretty well-known art school in Richmond. So I gravitated towards VCU and instantly sort of hated it because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And, you know, the music community and the punk and the art community is all kind of mashed together right there, or was all there right together on campus. And I ended up, well, even before I started art school, I was going to see a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started art school, I was kind of disappointed at how sort of regulated and strict it was. And Gwar was doing something that was more in keeping with what I thought art was. So I just sort of gravitated away from art school and more towards Gwar. So,
was there ever like a comic book or a film that really messed you up as a kid that may have had influence on you as an artist, specifically from the realm of horror?
Well, you know, I'm a huge horror buff, and it sort of evolved over the years. I mean, the one that scared me the most is Shockwaves. You know, and just underwater zombies. I saw it on late night, you know, horror thing that I wasn't supposed to watch, and it scared the crap out of me. And, you know, surprisingly enough, the TV Salem's Lot, when Mr. Barlow sits up in the jail cell, I scream, you know. So I remember those two being the things that scared me the most, but the horror genre in general, I just love gore and love mostly, you know, Evil Dead 2, especially, I think for everyone in Gwar, because it has the sensibility of Gwar. It doesn't take itself very seriously. It's really more of a comedy, and but it shows all the things that were in all the movies we grew up with in a very comedic light. So I think that had a big influence on me and everyone else in Gwar, because it came out about the time that I joined the band, and it was referred to as the movie because it was so important. But you know, Peter Jackson's first couple movies, I remember when we first saw Bad Taste, we were completely blown away. You couldn't get a copy of it, you know, because it was a New Zealand movie, the first New Zealand movie I think I ever saw. So, you know, it just had, when he blows up the sheep with the rocket launcher, it was just, you know, it had all the sensibilities of Gwar. And then, of course, you know, Dead Alive. But growing up, I think all the Carpenter stuff, I love almost every Carpenter horror movie. You know, the feel is different, and Cronenberg too, because it's like Gwar in a lot of ways too, where it's these layers of social commentary guys that's a horror. You know, they're clearly a lot of social messages going on with both those guys, but it's, you know, it doesn't have to be. They're not heavy-handed about it. I don't think it's like a horror movie that has these layers of social commentary.
Mm-hmm. Over the years, designing and creating props and artwork for Gwar, did you ever sneak in horror references? Did you ever get in anything that like maybe might be of note?
So in Wes Craven's, let's say, Deadly Friend, you know, when I think the decap was happening kind of before I joined, but I became the main, because I'm short. So for years, me or this other short guy always played the decap. And there's a scene where the robot girlfriend destroys the old lady's head with the basketball, and then it's just this bloody stump in the fingers. I just remember every time I play the character, I try and like be as funny. Because the first time I saw it, I just exploded laughing. I thought that was the funniest scene where, how do you destroy someone's head with a basketball? It's impossible, but it's so funny. And then just these hands. So I remember the first bunch of years I played a decap every night. I would just try and do something similar to that. So yeah, lots of references like that, because most of us love horror, especially that kind of over the top fun horror.
A lot of very shocking imagery in the Gwar artwork. Was there ever something specifically that you found really messed with audiences, that like, really left people disturbed or had people talking the most?
There's a couple. Sometimes we have our own reality where we create our own characters that are just supposed to be versions of things in real life. And sometimes we just do a famous person. And the Lacey Peterson murder was so horrible in real life. And we were, of course, when we make fun of something, it's to bring realization to how horrible things are in the real world. But we had her on stage as kind of a waterlogged corpse, and then her baby falls out, and there's a fish in there smoking a cigarette. And I just remember there was some, because it really is a sad story. So it's hard to have, when people get killed normally on stage, it's people that everyone can collectively say, oh, well, I hate him. It's the president, or it's some figure that, but this was a tragic case. So I remember saying, oh yeah, people aren't too into this because it's, it was a tragic thing. We weren't making fun of her husband who we should have killed, so things like that. I mean, with us, we're just bringing, hold the mirror up to society. But I remember that, and we killed the Virginia Tech killer, but it was, we did that right after it happened. And I remember we played a show in Virginia, and people did not like that.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we did Princess Diana in England right after that happened, and that did not, but
sorry, not funny, but it's shocking.
Yeah.
I think I had a lot of misconceptions about the band before watching the documentary that were really cleared up for me. Yeah. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about Gwar?
That we're just a rock band. I think that's number one. That most people aren't aware. I mean, even a lot of our fans aren't aware that we're an art collective, and Gwar is just the one project that's stuck, or makes us the money. So yeah, that is the biggest one. And then also, that there is a narrative, and it's not stupid. Most people, once they see it, they're like, oh, this is very creative. And even if I don't like this part, I like this part. It's a punk rock blue man group, man, so like, I think there is something for everyone. And usually when, even people that don't like heavy metal or don't like horror, they see the creativeness of it, and they see how actually talented everyone is. And they, we're easy to write off because we are a novelty band, I guess, per se. But, everybody likes Weird Al, that we don't really get that kind of cred because there's this, I think we're a little too strange for someone to like understand right off the bat. And I worked on really hard on a coffee table book that came out about 8 years ago, and it's out of print now, but people don't read. So like all our fans bought it, and they already knew a lot of the stuff anyway. But this documentary really sort of is really going to be great to open people's eyes to like what we're all about.
Do you think there was ever a moment at the band's peak of popularity where you broke into the mainstream?
Well, we've always had like little touches around the edges where, as Don Dracula, so Sleazy P always says, we're infamous, not famous. And, it's the Mystery Date, Empire Records, Beavis and Butthead, all those things at that time, we were thinking, well, there will be this. And, we talk about that in the movie too, how, we kind of torpedoed ourselves with the Baby Dick Fuck thing, the BDF thing. And after that, I don't think anyone thought we would ever. But, I remember when the musicians wrote Surf of Sin, there's no vocals in it and it's a surf song. So I think we were still trying to think that maybe that would get on MTV. We've always tried to, make a living without too much compromise. So, I mean, I think at that time, the Jerry Springer, sort of the late 90s, it seemed like a lot of people were finding out about us, but it never really catapulted us to the next level.
For the documentary, were you involved with it from the beginning? Or is it something that by the time it was finished, you sat down and watched it for the first time?
A little of both. So I'm sort of the band historian. A lot of this stuff in the background is my archive. Different people had reached out to me about it, doing something, because I'd done the book, about doing some kind of documentary. And, most documentaries are done by someone and the people it's done on are just not really involved.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for Scott to get kind of all that good stuff, we had to sort of say, well, we want to at least kind of see it and make sure it doesn't. We didn't want to control it. We just didn't want to make us look stupid or misrepresent us, because we've been so misrepresented. So we saw a cut. Scott had been working on it for a couple of years when we saw the first cut, and I think we were also blown away at how powerful it was and how not what we thought it would be. That we kind of just, other than saying, hey, can you change that? That's actually untrue, or this or that, maybe use this music there. We didn't really try. Most journalists have kind of some kind of agenda. And I think Scott really didn't. He just wanted us to tell our story, and that's what he did. He let us tell the story, and we were all pretty blown away. I know the people I talked to in the band, the first time they saw it, they were like, "Whoa, this is." It's kind of weird watching a movie about your life.
I can't imagine. There's, a few personalities in conflict, and I'm wondering, was everyone always comfortable appearing in the film, or was that ever in question?
Well, one of the things I did with Scott was I kind of guided him through most places there's a boss and you have 4 creative people, they can't get along. Like, we're our own bosses. So it's kind of a nightmare all the time. And I tried to help Scott by him remaining independent of, it's not something we did, that helped a lot, because Scott is such a kind, caring person. People were able to open up to him and not feel like it was something the band was doing, trying to get something out of them or something. It actually helped heal a lot of wounds, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
Well, I mean, in the middle of the movie, we got Hunter to come back and do stuff with us. And so, I mean, he still has a lot of issues with a lot of things over the years, but he worked with us on that live stream and on the tour last fall. And, that was awesome.
Has it led you to communicating more, even just personally?
It's not like I call him on the phone, but I can now. Before I couldn't. And, we had a great time. I enjoyed his company that whole last tour. And I think he doesn't hate us as much anymore.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you think people are so drawn to this band and so drawn to what you do?
My personal opinion is that everyone's had a point in their life where they've been really enjoying what they're doing and really creative, and at a point that they say, oh boy, I really wish I hadn't quit that band I was in college, or I really wish I'd pursued that career that wouldn't have made me any money but would have made me really happy. And I think people can see how tough it is, but how we didn't stop. We're still doing it. And I think everyone can identify with a little part of that, even if it's not metal or punk or horror. They get the idea of loving what you do.
What do you think the future looks like for Gwar?
I mean, it's really bright, because we have new management. This movie is bringing a lot of attention to us. I think it's really about income streams, unfortunately, at this point, and being able to afford to do it as you get older, and having more people find out about us. Because, like I said earlier, when people find out what we're really about, they really like us, and they buy T-shirts, they buy albums, they come to see the shows. That's what keeps us going. And so, the more publicity, things like this, it keeps us going. So, I mean, right now we've got more partnerships with things that we really like, not just sort of slapping our name on things. We've got, a beer deal with beer people we really like, and
Cool.
whiskey deal with whiskey people we really like, and I did the artwork for it, or Matt does the artwork for it, and it's all Gwar, stuff. So it's really bright. It seems like, I don't know, we'll just keep doing it. I know I don't want to do anything else.
It seemed like the long form video was a really important medium for you guys. Is that something that you're still pursuing?
Well, it's really hard. The budgets sort of dried up. Those budgets came with, sort of cross collateralized with our albums. And as those things shrank, they did. Now, this documentary and us working with Shudder, anything's possible. Like we did during the pandemic, we had a lot of new content that we were putting up on our own channel, trying to shop an idea for more long form stuff. So, because we have all these other ideas that, like I said, Gwar is the main focus, but we have all these other ideas like ex-cops and different things that aren't necessarily Gwar that come out of this creative group of people. So, fingers crossed. We would love to. It's just we haven't been able to afford anything but live things, because that's.
Well, congrats on the documentary. Congrats on everything. It seems like a really exciting new era for you guys, and we're really excited to keep an eye on what's coming up next.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we're all really excited about it. So thank you.
Wonderful, and have a great day. And thanks for chatting with us at Dread Central.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody.